to another day. Welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Dee. I make lifestyle content chronicling my everyday life, and I also do reviews on Black and brown owned businesses. So if that's something that you like, make sure that you like the video. Make sure that if you want to stick around, you subscribe to the channel and turn the notification bell on so that you're notified every single time I put up a video. So happy 2023, happy new year to you guys. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for spending some time with me today. And let's get into this video. Okay, so as you guys know, or some of you may not know, my husband and I traveled to South Africa twice last year. Twice last year during 2022. The first time was for our honeymoon because we got married a year ago. We went again just to kind of like spend a little bit more time there, just kind of scope out Joburg a little bit more than what we did the last time. So the reason for this video is I wanted to just kind of do a debrief of some of the things that I noticed, maybe some differences between here and the States, some things that, you know, we're kind of looking forward to and all of that kind of stuff. So if that's something that you really like, if it's something that you're willing to stick around to hear and talk about, then of course stick around for the rest of the video. So I've got my computer here, so in case I'm kind of like looking down, it's because I'm kind of looking at my notes. I'm not going to talk too much about too much. I'm going to try to keep this video as short and sweet as I possibly can, so I'm going to get right into it. First thing I wanted to talk about was food. The food there is so good. It is so good, guys. Like, I feel like that's the only way that I can describe it. It's just so good. Now, one thing I do want to kind of mention about food and even just things over there in general, they're lower than the cost of things of comparable things here in the States. So for instance, going out to dinner for two people, on average for my husband and I think we spent about $30 to $50. And I mean, we're talking drinks, and not just like non-alcoholic drinks, but non-alcoholic drinks in addition to, you know, like cocktails, wine, things like that. An appetizer, a main, and sometimes dessert. So $30 to $40, $50 USD, obviously. That was something that we were just in total shock, especially the first time we went, because it was our first time in the country. You know, we really didn't have any expectations other than, you know, we're going to experience a new culture, new country, everything like that. But when we went back the second time and we were able to spend more time there, we were able to eat more food. You know what I'm saying? That's all your girl cares about. All I care about is food. All I care about is stuffing my face with really good food. So the food there is cheaper. I don't know if I can say that it's super cheap. I mean, in some instances, yes, it's very cheap according to US standards, but not US standards. That makes it seem like the food is really bad. No, the food is extremely good. But just price-wise, food is cheaper than the US, typically around half, maybe even less than a quarter of the price in some instances. One of the main differences, one of the places that I saw the main differences in just kind of pricing of food was in the grocery store. So for a 2 pound, you know, thing of ground beef or something here in the States, I normally buy them like a pound at a time. And those pound of like 93%, you know, lean meat cost me like $6 here in the States. Well, if I was getting the same over there, I think it would cost about $3, $2 or $3, something like that. So everything over there seemed like it was about 50% off from what we would expect here in the States, price-wise. Then the quality of the food, y'all. The quality of the food was so good. Taste-wise, you know, there are definitely some things that he and I tasted that weren't really to our liking, but I'd say maybe about 95% of the food that we ate, and that includes all the food that we ate between both trips, loved. I mean, so much so that we had even repeated our visit to some of these places because the food was so good. When you're going to these other countries, because this is something that I had to kind of tell myself, you're experiencing everything that's new currency, new country, new people, new food, new cultures, new everything. So you have to keep an open mind. And I think that allowed me to fully experience, you know, even though they were short time periods, you know, fully be able to experience just the beauty of South Africa. And mind you, we haven't even scratched the surface of what the country has to offer. So food was amazing. And then on top of it being cheaper than what food would be here in the States, and on top of the quality being chef's kiss amazing, there are like no GMOs, no crazy chemicals, no nothing. So the reason why I mention that is because I talk about in my vlogs, if you're a regular watcher or just, you know, kind of part of the internet fam, that I am lactose intolerant here in the States. So any sort of dairy that I eat is going to be followed up with gas, and I might be on the toilet. Okay, I know that's TMI, but we're very real on this channel. But over there, I ate ice cream almost every day. Not one lick of a digestive issue. So I truly think that it's what's in our food and how we're processing our food here in the States that's causing people to have all of these, you know, intolerances or, you know, these diseases. Now, mind you, there are some people that truly do have, you know, allergic allergies or, you know, truly are lactose intolerant no matter where they go. But you'll hear a lot about people eating food outside of the States and feeling so much better. They're losing weight without exercising. They're not having, you know, all these digestive problems that they typically experience while in the States, which was my experience. Sometimes I'm like, am I really lactose intolerant or do I really just have an intolerance to the way that we're processing food here? Because I know for sure when I started eating dairy here again, I was starting to feel really sick. It kind of balanced out after a while, but I know those kind of first like 2 weeks or so, my body was going through it. But food-wise, guys, please just eat as much food as you possibly can if you ever have the opportunity to go to any African country, really, because I'm telling you, it's gonna be rich in culture, it's gonna be rich in love, and it's gonna be rich in flavor. Okay, so the next one, driving. My boo and I stayed in the Ellipse apartments across the street from the Mall of Africa in or Midrand, whatever. Across, like, obviously there's the apartments and then there's like a kind of like a four-way, and then you get to the mall. So right outside of the balcony, you know, we would just kind of sit there and people watch and watch people, you know, watch the cars go by and everything like that. One thing that we noticed, okay, was that people did not really stop. And I mean like at stop signs, even sometimes at red lights. People really would not stop. The road so the road that was in between us and the mall wasn't super busy unless it was like, if it was, you know, around dinner time, you know, on the weekends and people were, you know, going to the mall for dinner or, you know, just wanting to go out and stuff. But during the day, it was a little bit slower. And so you got to see how people were driving. And so there was one kind of four-way stop, no stop light, but just like four-way stop. And people would just literally just drive through the stop sign. Now, mind you, you do that here in the States, you're gonna get a ticket, okay? You're gonna get a ticket. And because I've done it before. I'm not bragging, I'm not saying to do that, but here in the States, if you run a stop sign and a police officer sees you, you're most likely going to get a ticket. So when we saw that, we were like, yo, I don't know how we're gonna drive, because at that point we didn't have a rental car yet, and I'll kind of get into that in a second. We were just like, yo, we're gonna, you know, buy some property over here one day, and, you know, this is gonna be like our second home, and so we're gonna be driving and stuff, so we're gonna have to get used to, you know, some of these, you know, stranger, different ways that people are kind of driving. So that was the first thing that we noticed. Everyone was just blowing through the stop signs. And then because the country experiences load shedding often, sometimes the traffic lights or the robots will be out for a time period. So then people will just treat those as yields as well. Whereas here in the States, if a traffic light goes out, everyone treats it like a four-way stop. Everyone has to come to a complete stop, because again, if you don't and you run through it, you're gonna get stopped by the police, and if the police are around, and you could get a ticket. So it was really interesting experience to just visualize that. And then when we rented a car for like a little more than a week, and driving like that. Now, mind you, my boo is like super like law-abiding a citizen, okay? Like doesn't break rules, no, none of that. So kind of watching him drive and trying to, you know, do as the Romans do while we were in South Africa with the stop signs and the stoplights and stuff was very interesting, because it goes against his nature as just like a law-abiding citizen, but it also goes against our nature as Americans, because you get in trouble if you drive in this manner. So driving was really kind of interesting. One thing, if people don't know about South Africa when it comes to driving, is they drive on the opposite side of the road than where we drive. And same with the cars. So here in the States, we drive on the right-hand side of the road, and we drive on the left-hand side of the car. And over there, everything is switched. So they drive on the left-hand side of the road and the right-hand side of the car. At first, you know, like my boo was the one that drove the most when we rented the car. It was a little bit of a learning curve, but not too much, because honestly, I thought he did a beautiful job driving. You know, there are some things that you kind of have to get used to when everything is switched to what you normally know. But he did a beautiful job driving. I drove a couple of times while we were there, and it wasn't too bad. I'm laughing because we test driven a couple of cars while we were out there, right? So because everything is kind of switched, your brain just kind of has to figure it out, right? So not only are we on a different side of the road and we're also on a different side of the car, but the controls are on different sides. So for instance, when we're in our cars here in the States, to switch your gears, it's on the right hand side, and then to do your indicator or your signal, it's on the left hand. But over there, this wasn't always the case. So we test drove two different cars. We test drove a Range Rover Discovery, and we test drove a Hyundai Palisade, and they were completely different with their controls. The Range Rover had everything switched, which made sense, right? So I'm trying to think. So I believe the signal was on the left hand side, and the other controls were kind of on the right hand side. Whereas the Palisade had it switched. So the indicator was on this side, and like the wipers and other controls were on this side. So it was, so when we went from test driving the Discovery and to test driving the Palisade, we kept turning on the windshield wipers because we were just so used to, using the left-hand side for the indicator. Because even though everything is switched on the other side of the car than here in the States, the setup was still essentially the same, and the car that we were renting was set up in the same way as a Discovery, so we were used to that too. So it was really funny kind of like trying to switch and figure out like, okay, we're in this car and it's different from the last car we test drove, and it's different from the car that we're currently driving, so you have to kind of just do a mental switch. But driving overall wasn't too bad. I know that a lot of people hear Africa and they think that there's no infrastructure, they think that there's no paved roads, no electricity, no running water, and all that kind of stuff, but I'm here to tell you that that's not true. There might be pockets of areas that are like that, but generally speaking, a lot of these areas are hella developed, and there's infrastructure, there are roads, there's everything. So I think we really have to stop we got to get out of this conditioned mind of thinking that everything about Africa is just straight poverty and nothing else, right? The country of South Africa, the continent of Africa, is so beautiful. It's so rich in culture. So many like amazing things that you can experience there, in addition to freaking infrastructure. Okay, like South Africa is one of the most kind of technologically data-driven countries on the entire continent. You can't tell me that there's no infrastructure there. But honestly, it's one of those situations where you kind of have to experience it for yourself. Okay, so I only have two more things that I kind of want to talk about, and the next one is about their malls / shopping centers. So if you watched the second South Africa series that I put out, a couple months back, then you would have seen that we had gone to a couple of different malls. We went to the Sandton Mall, which we had been to before because that was a mall that we went to when we came the first time. When we went the first time, we went to Centurion, we went to Mall of the South, Mall of Africa we went to a lot because we were staying across the street from there. And then we went to Four Ways. So one thing about their malls is that they are clean AF. I've never in my entire life, ever been in malls so clean. And I don't say that because I had this whole mindset that their malls are dirty or unorganized or anything. No, like I wasn't thinking that at all. I was so shocked to go into their malls because they were literally spotless. And it's not even just like the common areas where people are kind of walking in between stores, but the stores themselves, guys, are so flipping, I can't even speak. They're so flipping clean. They're so clean. Like I've never experienced that in my life. And mind you, I'm a 90s kid, right? Like I was a kid during the 90s. So malls were a huge part of just like our culture and a part of our experience as kids during that time. And let me tell you, all the malls were dirty AF, okay? They were dirty AF. And so I remember the first time we went to the Sandton Mall, the first time we went, literally saw people in the grout of the tile scrubbing at it. There was also people scooping up gum. Like you don't see gum everywhere. That's where people just like spit it out and it just gets stuck there and people walk all over it for centuries. It's spotless in there. spotless, okay, spotless. So I really appreciated that. Clothing isn't all out of order, so it doesn't really affect your shopping experience. There really were no places that we went into, regardless of the type of store, that was in total disarray. Like, there might have been maybe one or two stores that we saw in the entirety of our, you know, kind of visits to these different malls that were kind of in disarray, but really not much. They were extremely clean, they were extremely organized. Obviously the people were really nice, and I'll kind of get into the people a little bit later. They were just so clean, so nice, and it made me feel, I don't know, it just made me feel a lot better going into the malls because I didn't feel dirty coming out of them. But that's just me. I mean, I'm a mall person just because of the, you know, the 90s, but like, I don't really go to the malls here in the States for a plethora of reasons, but one of them being it can be really difficult to shop because it'll be complete chaos in those stores, and no one wants to deal with that. You know what I mean? No one wants to have to sift through no one wants to have to sift through chaos. It's just ridiculous. I ain't going to the mall in the States. I'd rather fly 9,000 miles and go to the mall in South Africa. And then the last thing that I kind of wanted to debrief about is the people. Honestly, the first time we went to South Africa, that's what captured me. That's what made me fall in love with the country. And mind you, we were only there for like 6-7 days. And we didn't even get to scratch the surface while we were there. Even this last time that we went, we were there for much longer. We still didn't scratch the surface of South Africa, right? Because we've only stayed in Joburg. The people are not only just physically beautiful, but they have such beautiful hearts, souls, minds, just spirits. When I tell you that as soon as I landed in South Africa the first time, it was like breathing a sigh of relief. Like, I felt like I was able to breathe for the first time in my life. I felt like I was able to just be myself for the first time in my life. And as a Black American, that's something that we don't necessarily get the luxury to do. And like, I work in corporate America, so I constantly have to deal with like microaggressions. I have to deal with being, you know, one of, you know, like 2 people, you know, Black people in a company. You know, I'm always like the token Black girl in all these different situations in my friend groups and, you know, at work and all these different situations, right? But when we were in South Africa, I felt like I was just Denise. I was just Denise. And, you know, and my boo was just my boo. There wasn't any, you know, I'm Denise, I'm a Black girl from Jersey. I'm Denise, da 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 da. I was just able to be myself. And the people were just so nice, and they made me feel so comfortable. I've never felt that kind of welcoming spirit before. I didn't want to get away from it. And every single time we've come back from there, I'm telling y'all, I've had major attitude, because that has helped me so much with my mental health, my emotional health, and just like my spiritual health, because I'm able to connect with like my people. You know what I mean? You know, a lot of the you know, internet fam, you know, the people that are subscribed to this YouTube channel are from South Africa. I just love being able to connect with them. Even though I'm not in the country right now, it's just wonderful and just such a beautiful thing for me to be able to connect with people, and that we can use technology to connect with each other. And that's the main reason why I wanted to make this YouTube channel. I wanted to connect with people. I wanted to connect with us, and I wanted to do my part in trying to bring us together as a diaspora, as a people, as like a family, you know? Like, even just thinking about it now, like, you can tell I'm just really smiling, and I'm trying to hold, you know, my excitement in, because I'm not trying to come across too crazy on this channel. But the people, guys, honestly were the reason why South Africa is so amazing. The food was great, the malls were great, the driving was funny to watch and experience, but the people were really what made me want to come back. You know, the only like bad thing about our trips is that we did not get to experience an authentic braai. And that's something that we really wanted to do when we were there the second time, just with, you know, like my work schedule and, you know, all sorts of different reasons. We weren't able to do that this time around. But I'm telling you guys, like, next time we get back, you know, I'm hoping it's sooner than later. We're for sure gonna go to a braai. And even some of our friends were like, oh yeah, you know, once you guys are back, you know, just let us know, we'll invite you over for a braai and all that kind of stuff, and la 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 la. The thing that I kind of wanted to talk about just really casually is, you know, what we're kind of looking forward to. So I'm sure that I'll talk about this in future videos and stuff, because I know that I kind of said when it comes to, you know, moving to South Africa that we're going to be going from like one to another. But that narrative is going to change drastically, and that it's more of South Africa is going to be a place that we travel to often, instead of just kind of being there kind of permanently. I can't give too many details just because of privacy, security, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, it's not so much of, oh, we're going to sell everything and then move. It's more of like a, we're going to stay here, but we're also going to be traveling a lot, most likely. And it could be one of those things where, I don't know, we have an extended stay over there, and then we'll be back in the States, extended stay here, and then be back in South Africa. Like, I don't know. Truthfully, that's up to God, however that plays out. There's too much that I'm already stressing about in life. I'm just going to leave that huge elephant of, you know, a process up to him and just go with the flow. I did want to kind of preface that and say that the narrative has changed as far as like moving and all of that. South Africa is going to be our second home, and then we're hoping that, you know, from there we'll be able to travel to other African countries and be able to be immersed in so many other cultures, because the continent offers so much in terms of food, people, culture, everything in between. I don't know, I just feel like I just want us all as Africans, as blacks, as whatever, to just come together as one and really be unified. You know what I mean? And I'm really hoping that we can do that sooner than later, because honestly, at this point in life, I feel like it's needed. But one of the things that we're looking forward to is obviously, hopefully buying a house one day. What that looks like, no idea. But another thing that we're looking forward to is whenever we have kids, being able to expose them to beautiful African cultures, beautiful African people. We're also in the process of trying to, you know, learn new languages. So like for me personally, I want to learn French, Swahili, and Zulu, because I feel like throughout the African continent, those are languages that are very popular and will kind of help me, you know, be a little bit more respectful to other people's, you know, languages and communicating with them. A lot of people speak English over there, which is nice, but I want to do my part in trying to learn so that they don't have to speak English. And it's not to say that English is super difficult for people, because I don't know their level of learning and all of that kind of stuff. But English is a very difficult language to learn. But English is a difficult language to learn, or can be a difficult language to learn. And so I don't want to be one of those Americans that goes to a different country and expects everybody to speak my language. You know what I mean? I don't know, I think it's just like a respect thing, but that could just be me. Obviously, one of the things that I so look forward to whenever we're back on the continent is eating more good food. So that's something that I'm totally looking forward to, because I feel like food is universal. I feel like it's the way to people's hearts. It's a way to be immersed in someone's culture, even if you can't speak the language. If there's a huge language barrier, one thing that you can do is talk through food. The last thing that I'm looking forward to is really just connecting with a lot of people, listening to people as they tell their stories and learning more about their cultures and their families and their friends, you know, whatever it is that they're willing to share with me, and just kind of connecting with people. I miss South Africa so much, guys. If you have no idea, it was such a great trip. Not only for us to just scope out more, but it was also really great for our mental health, because our mental health suffers a little bit while we're here, and it didn't at all while we were there. And yeah, I'm just really excited to get back there, and hopefully soon, you know, hopefully soon you'll see us back there, and, you know, obviously we'll take you along with us in the vlogs. But that is it for me. I hope this video allowed you to get a bit of a sense of how we feel about South Africa, the things that we were excited about, the things that were kind of interesting, you know, the differences between the two countries and all of that. But, you know, if there are any kind of questions you have, like regarding my experiences and, you know, obviously my booze experience, you know, or anything like that, really any kind of question, you know, I'll try to answer it as best as I possibly can. You know, if there's any kind of question that kind of errs on the side of breaching a little bit of privacy or security, I'll let y'all know. But you guys know I'm pretty much an open book, and I have no problems talking about most things. So feel free to leave a comment or a question down below. And again, you know, like the video if you liked it. If you want to stick around, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!